Well, my najma, how about this? We have been here before, although it was a January, and the weather wasn't like as it is today. It's supposed to be thunderstorms today, but clearly that isn't happening. Where am I? Leaving pool on the top deck of the X40, I think. Anyway, yeah. So the weather looks nice, and I'm going to make a few videos, put them all together, and hopefully you like them. Bye. Okay, just got off the bus. Not that one. The one I was on just took off. That one's a bit different. You can see the it's got an open top deck there. A spectacular ride through the Isle of Purbeck. Who knows? I do actually have a day pass, so I can actually get on all these buses. Where am I? Well, there's a clue. Swanage Station. Oh, and that bus on the left. I can get on that one as well, actually. Same day pass. Swanage Station. This is the railway station. They do have a steam train that goes. One end is here, the other I think is Wareham. Goes through Corth Castle, which is one of these castles that's seen better days and is in a bit of a state. Not much of it left, but some people like visiting that sort of thing. Not my cup of tea, actually, because you know, this country's full of them. You know, old, abandoned, you know, almost totally demolished castles with just a, you know, few remaining walls and all that kind of thing. But anyway, each to our own. Okay, and here's oh, look at that. Let me cross over here. There's a co-op. Okay, Purbeck's railway needs your help to survive. Da da da. Look at that, old trains, old style trains. Wow, they do have a steam train somewhere. These fellas are not steam trains. Let's see if we can see the steam train. I mean, the steam train is a tourist thing, right? I mean, it's not the normal sort of train that they use. But even these things, this looks a bit old, doesn't it? British Railways, da da da. Oh yeah, this has all got table service and stuff. Must be some non-normal type train, if you're so inclined. Anyway, Swanage has certain memories for me, Najma. Not sure if I've told you, but I shall wait till the next video or two. Bye. Okay, remember that, but not that precise establishment location. Harry Ramsden's. Remember we went to the one in Eastbourne. Since then, right, I've sent them 2 emails asking them the source of their fish. Both times I've got one of these form emails saying, thanks very much for your inquiry, we'll get back to you. First time I sent was last Christmas, then I think April or May. They've still never responded to me. So big thumbs down to Harry Ramsden's, and I urge all of you never to go to Harry Ramsden's. I swear, I just think it's so rude, you know. Where are we? Honey, honey, honey. Okay. Swanage. RNLI lifeboats. Okay. Alright, why? What does this mean to me? Well, it's quite pleasant. It's an August day. It's supposed to be thunderstorms today, but, well, doesn't look like it. Certainly haven't had any. There's a pier over there. Doesn't look. Oh, there's some people on it. Anyway, here. Now, what I remember about this, I remember growing up that we'd often come down here for our holidays, and it's not far to drive here from Bristol. And there is a video somewhere of it's taken on the beach, and it shows me with one of these, you know, these beach footballs, the rubber things, and I guess I must have been I don't know, 12, 13, 14, some age like that. Maybe, no, maybe a bit older, because what happened, I was, you could see me on the video and I kicked the ball. I must have been somewhere close to the water's edge or something. I kicked this beach ball, landed straight on my sister's head. And my sister was still a baby at the time, so probably doesn't remember it. So being the fact that she was a baby, that would put me maybe at 14 or 15, you know, that kind of age. And I say the ball hit her smack on the head. I can't imagine I, you know, did it deliberately, and not when she was a baby. It was just, I was probably aiming for my brother, you know, and hit my sister instead, but, you know, or one of my brothers. But there you go. And that must have been, I mean, this, maybe not this beach, there's some more over there, more beach over there. But anyway, yes, I haven't been down here to Swanage for a while. It's a typical tourist resort. You know, what happened in this country is that when those Spanish package tours started opening up, you know, in which people would get the flight and the hotel and maybe the rental car included, then people started kind of going down to various places in Spain, because for the most part the weather's going to be more reliable. I mean, today it's, you know, as you can see, it's a really nice day. There were thunderstorms due. It hasn't happened, or may yet happen, but not looking at the sky. So in a way, the weather's going to be more predictable down in some parts of Spain and other parts of the world. And you can never really rely on it here, kind of ish. You can to a degree, but not totally, not as much as other parts of the world. So it's just why, you know, a lot of people, they're going to be going to places in Spain or Turkey or Greece or Florida, or, you know, where Maldives, you know, I don't know, wherever. See, I probably saw this last when I was a teenager, in commemoration of a great naval battle with the Danes, not against them, in Swanage Bay by Alfred the Great, AD 877. Holy moly. Holy moly. Anyway, you know, you're gonna get your normal, you know, there's plenty of fish and chip shops. Seriously, avoid Harry Ramsden's. Deck chairs, £3 a day, or £2 from 3:15 in the afternoon. You know, and the water's not going to be super warm, of course, but, you know, once you get in it, you kind of get used to it after a minute or so. You know, no worries about sharks and that sort of thing. You know, here's lots of ice cream, of course. There's a fun world, adventure golf, and, you know, all that kind of thing. There's something like the NHS there. You know, we're still in this pandemic thing, of course. You know, and of course, all this stuff along here, it's all going to be higher than the average price, simply because of its location. Anyway, but, you know, it's, you know, when the weather's like this, well, it doesn't have to be this hot, I suppose. It's all nice, isn't it? You know, and I can see why people would choose to stay in this country and visit such places. And it's not just here, of course. There's lots of places along the south coast, and also to a lesser degree to, the other coasts as well. But of course, it's the weather, isn't it? It's always a little bit like rolling a dice. But days like today, it's fine, you know. Really is. Okay, this is where I'm heading, the tourist information. I'm a tourist, honey, in my own country. And this isn't far from London. If I was to drive from here now to where I am in West London, probably be an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 3/4. Alright, bye. Well, honey, I did it. I got on, not that precise bus, but a similar bus going in the other direction from Swanage as far as this ferry terminal, and then it goes on to Bournemouth. That bus there starts in Bournemouth and goes to Swanage. I could actually get on it with my bus pass, though not actually on the ferry. I'm on the ferry now. Just over here, apparently Harry Redknapp, who was I'm not sure, a Premier League manager, lives in one of those. This is Sandbanks. Sandbanks is not cheap. And what's on the other side? The Haven Hotel.
Make sure you got your mask on.
Oh. You gotta talk with your mask on. Can't hear me, you know? Yeah. Okay, can you hear me? Yes. Anyway, oh, look at this. Okay, how about that? We're now going back to the Purbeck side, which is where I've just come from. Swanage is about 5 miles away. I may take a bus there. I'm probably going to walk along the coast because this is one end of the Jurassic walk. This is the easterly end, somewhere. I'll talk about that in the next video. Alright. That bus is different than the one I just got off. When I just got off, it had the top deck was uncovered for most of the entire length of the bus. Whereas this one, it's about halfway covered. Anyway, yeah, the ferry's not long. There's one end, there's the other. It's £1 one way. I think westbound it's £1, the other way is free. I think I heard the guy say it was free the other way, but whatever. Swimmers are beware strong tidal currents. Okay. National Trust. Dogs welcome on a lead. None of this leash nonsense. On the beach, 1st of May to 30th of September. May, June, July, 5 months. Anyway, right, so this is part of the National Trust. National Trust and English Heritage look after a lot of things in this country, whether they be beaches, fields, parts of the coastline, parts of dales, or whatever, and buildings, castles, and I think the Tower of London is looked after by English Heritage. All sorts of things throughout the country looked after by those two organisations, who have special rights afforded to them by an Act of Parliament. Actually, and certain things can only be changed by an Act of Parliament. Those two organisations, English Heritage and National Trust, are protected to a great deal by the law of the land. Anyway, here we are at Shell Bay. Okay, so we're back on Purbeck, the Isle of Purbeck. Other side of it, there's the ferry. From the other side, I mean, that bus I just got off goes on to Bournemouth, but there are buses on the other side that actually go to Poole, which is over there. Anyway, it's not far to walk actually. I'm walking the other direction. I could take that bus. I do have a bus pass, but of course the bus doesn't actually go along the coast itself. Close to it, but not exactly. And I want to go back to Swanage walking, and I think it's about 5 miles, something like that. Anyway, so this part of it, oh, here we are. So you are here, I am here. Shell Bay, so I'm going to follow that green dotted line. Anytime you see an acorn like that, that's the southwestern coast path. That's about 550 miles long in total. And I'm not sure precisely where either end is, but it's, you know, obviously it's quite some distance, and it, you know, goes certainly up into Cornwall, and I'm not exactly sure, you know, where it ends and finishes, you know, either side. Of course, this country, I don't know how many thousands of miles Britain has in coastline. You know, it's you know, quite a bit, I would think. And this is part of the Southwest Path. So I shall follow this green line along here, a naturist area. Well, I'm gonna keep my clothes on for that. And you can go along. Old Harry Rocks. That is significant, and when we get there, when I take that video, I shall tell you why. Alright, later. Okay, I appear to be walking through the naturist part of this this beach. So heads down, and I'm really not keen on a 100% all over tan, so I shall persevere. Okay, how far have we got? Well, if you look back, you can almost see where it starts. The beach starts getting busier with people, and I assume just the other side of that is the bit where I didn't see any kids, and that was the naturist part of it. You can see it's just not so busy from that line to the right, and of course if you're bringing kids, I suppose you don't want to bring them to the naturist bit. Well, maybe you do, I don't know. Anyway, so you can see here it's quite a bit busier, and there as well. That is my destination. Well, that's part of my destination. Those rocks sticking up there. Once I get to that point, then I shall be taking a video and telling you one or two things. But this is just a bit of a stop here, water stop. I guess people put in boats here, maybe. There's a place up there just to rent, you know, whatever it is people rent as well. Anyway, this is, here you go, Stedland Bay. Oh boy. And you see these beach huts here, and all the way along here. All the way along, certainly the south coast, and I guess some of the other coasts as well. You have these beach huts, and people own them, or I suppose some people just rent them, just, you know, to hang out in, or to change, or whatever. And apparently some of them are not that cheap. But some of them, and not so much here, these look kind of boring, but some of them, some parts of the coast, they're all different colours and look very nice actually. Anyway, I am trying to stick to the coast as best I can, and once I get up to that point up there, then I'll be telling you about it. Well, there's a bit of a destination out there. I mean, not the actual rocks themselves, but the bit of coastline that's closest to those rocks. However, slight problem. As I zoom out, this appears to be the end of the beach, or at least this beach anyway, and I guess at low tide it's probably okay just to walk along there. And could do this, I suppose. Probably a few reasons not to, but must be a way along there somewhere. Anyway, so this is the grungiest part of it actually, to be honest with you. I mean, just there out a little bit, and you probably wouldn't be able to see it at high tide, but certainly at low tide there's a whole bunch of pebbles and all that kind of thing. So if you know, it's not a totally sandy beach. I mean, when you look here, you can kind of, you know, all that bit looks sandy, but just out in the water there, you've got a whole bunch of pebbles, you know, which isn't as bad as rocks, I suppose. So if you wearing flip-flops or sandals better, I suppose that wouldn't be so bad. But there's none of those, you know, big rocks that you get in a few places that, you know, and during high tide those rocks are covered, and you can only see them at low tide. But here, so you can't, once it, you know, the tide's out of it, you can, it does expose all those pebbles and everything else. And I've seen a few of those little small nets, and there must be people that when it's at low tide, you know, they'll go out. I mean, the kids really, not the adults. They'll go out, you know, looking for crabs and whatever else. And also, of course, the birds will come down as well, looking for things like that to nibble on. And as I suppose some of these birds here as well. Oh, and there's a dog there barking at something. The dog is barking at the tide. But anyway, there's a dog out there actually. You can see him swimming. Anyway, so I've just got to get around this. I'm not going to go along here. I don't want to set a bad example actually. Plus the fact I don't want to slip and damage myself. But today was supposed to be a day with thunderstorms, and you know how nice, they've all kept off. So I'm going to go back along here, and there's got to be a way up there somewhere. So I'm going to find that. Okay, bye. Well, there's the beach out there. Along here, I've just come from just over there. Of course, beaches can be very nice, but they can also be very useful to enemies. And during the Second World War, this country was at serious risk of invasion from the Germans. Now the invasion is coming in a slightly more benign way. Anyway, and of course, back at the time, there was a lot of assumption that there was going to be an invasion at some point. But where from? Where at? And of course, nobody knew. And of course, you know, when you're thinking of invading somewhere, you want to do it where there's not so many rocks and there's a smooth beach and all this kind of stuff. So your tanks and your soldiers and all this stuff don't get bogged down in all sorts of natural obstacles. And this beach here was the sort of possibility that the Germans may have used. So of course defences were put up. And just here, you can see them. They're called dragon's teeth, apparently for an obvious reason, I suppose. And the idea behind them was to make it more difficult for tanks to sort of pass them, and also apparently to funnel tanks into some sort of valley where they would be easier to pick off by those wanting to pick them off. Now, of course, there's a whole bunch of beach huts here. I'm not sure, you know, how long they've been there, if they've been there since before or after the wars or not. But anyway, so that's the Dragon's Teeth, and this is Studland Bay. And here's a bit about it. And put it on pause if you wish. But anyway, and it's not just here. I mean, anywhere where there would have been a kind of beach that would have been suitable for an enemy landing is the sort of place that defences would have been put up, you know, naturally. Anyway, so onwards. And on that vein, Studland at war, defending the coast. Two stories of that, actually. Number one, defending the coast. Again, you might want to put this on pause. And the defence of the coast was at the time when it was suspected that a German invasion was imminent. Just nobody really knew where or when it was likely to take place. This is an interesting bit to me. Setting fire to the sea. Experiments known as Project Fugas were carried out to prevent enemy landing by piping crude oil into the sea and setting it ablaze. Let's just say that where are we? Complete with an echo. Oh, there's more in there. Right, check this out for a view. Of course, this is a pillbox meant for soldiers to hang around in the war. And the fear is that the Germans would approach from the right in their ships and aim to land people and machinery there. Not just this beach, but loads of other beaches. This goes into a bit. A wartime beach. Again, you might want to put this on pause. But back in the day, of course, nobody knew for sure where the Germans were planning on landing. I mean, I think everyone was pretty sure that the Germans wanted to land. It was just a question of where. And it wasn't just this beach, but beaches on the east coast as well. And there were two sides to beaches like this: defense and attack. Defense because we were, worried about defending ourselves against the Germans. So You know, these observation posts would have been useful for that. But also in 1943, when the threat had passed, and so beaches like this were used to practice things. Apparently people like Churchill, Eisenhower, the King would come along here and you know, observe the exercises. And you know, the same as the Germans were planning on doing to us. You know, when you plan to invade, you want to look for flat beaches that, you know, don't have lots of rocks. You know, and that was the same for us as it was for them. So we did a lot of training here, apparently. You can see how the beach is, right? I mean, it's not particularly rocky, lots of pebbles. But from the point of view of invading, I suppose these are the sort of beaches you want. So there was two sides to it, you know. Defending yourself and also using it to attack somebody else. Anyway, so again, you might want to put this on pause and read that, because I plan to. Okay, this is a memorial to the 4th/7th Royal Dragoon Guards, remembering those who lost their lives during exercise Smash 1 in Duplex Drive Amphibious Valentine Tanks, Studland Bay, 4th of April 1944. Those names and all those brave men and women who ensured the success of D-Day and the liberation of Europe for peace and freedom. And it has to be said that it was not just, you know, British troops involved in all this kind of thing. There were a lot of people, I mean, especially from the Commonwealth countries, for sure. And then by the time 1944 rolled around, there were, of course, a lot of Americans here as well. Anyways, that's the pillbox I've just walked along. A bit narrow in times, actually, just as well as lost some weight recently. Look at that. A bit different back in the 40s, or the early 40s anyway. Anyway, onwards. And here we are. Finally reached the Old Harry Rocks, still part of the National Trust. I've been talking about it quite a bit in the last few minutes. And why? Well, let's have a look. Okay, that's where I got off that little ferry from over there. So come all the way around to the Old Harry Rocks on my way to Swanage. And it's still a lovely day. It hasn't been, it's dropped a few degrees the last few days, since, you know, the last few days. That is to say, the last few days it's been a few degrees warmer than today. So I'm just so glad it's dropped those few degrees, because it was really unbearable. They're on the coast now, so the breezes are going to calm things down a bit and cool things down a bit. Anyway, okay, so I was on the coast walking along the beaches there until about that point over there, and of course I had to sort of go up because you know there's no beach down here. So I'm up higher now, and the only way to get down to where those people are by on one of those boats, or there's paddle boats. There's some people on jet skis, one over there, there's sailboats. So I suspect it's a bit too far to swim for most people from here all the way around. I mean, I don't know if, this looks quite shallow here. So I don't know if it's possible. I suppose if you're a good enough swimmer, you can do anything, I suppose. But whether you could actually wade from here all the way down to the beach, I don't know. It looks pleasant enough, doesn't it? And, whoa. Now look at this. Now in theory, one could go along there all the way to that point there. But, not standing up, I would think on your hands and knees maybe. But if you did fall, basically you'd be a goner because there's nothing to stop you. you'd end up down there and you'd have a hell of a headache if you did survive. But yeah, these people look as though they're enjoying themselves, and you can see the pebbles there, and then you get the moss or the algae, the seaweed, but no big rocks. And you know, of course, big rocks are the things you don't want to hit. And you know, high tide, of course, a lot of the time you can't see the big rocks, and you certainly don't want to get a headache that way. And thinking about it, you know, France is over there, and the reason that the Germans would have thought about invading over here, and which is the same reason as to why we were training here, was because of the similarity between the English coasts here, this part, and the French coast over there. Whereas nowadays, invasion is coming from a different type of person. Though the boat people don't really tend to go here, because like between Calais and Dover, it's only 21 miles, something like that. Whereas here, I don't know, I mean, it's not that close, that's for sure. And the last week or so, the sea's been mirror-like, and which is great for well, if you are gonna get 12 people in a dinghy that's meant for 6 people, then if you are gonna traverse the world's busiest shipping channel, you want to do it when the seas are mirror-like and less likely to flip you. I mean, it's bad enough under ideal conditions like now, which is why the last week or so we've had a lot of these boat people coming over, but they not really hear it. You know, the distance is too great to France. But it's astonishing what some of these people would do, actually. The channel, of course. Oh yes, yeah. Okay, so we're still on the southwest coast trail. It's about 550 miles, and at some point it becomes the southeast coast trail. Now we're in Dorset right now, as is Southampton. Next town over to the east from Southampton is Portsmouth, where Chris lives. That is Hampshire. Now I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming that on the border of Dorset and Hampshire is where the southwest coast trail becomes the southeast coast trail, and vice versa. See, there's wow, a couple of arches there. Wow, look at that. It's nice, doesn't it? Of course, White Cliffs here. We've seen White Cliffs in the Isle of Wight, Dover, here. But the reason Old Harry Rocks... Oh, here's another arch. Look at that. And it's got to be for a reason, actually. It's that chalky manufacture, I suppose, that creates arches over thousands of years, or something like that. But this part, the Old Harry Rocks is the eastern end of the Jurassic Coast Trail, which is about 93 miles long and is a World Heritage Site. This is the eastern end of it. A few years ago, I took 2 trains down from Bristol to Exmouth, which is the western end of the World Heritage Site, Jurassic Coast Trail. About 93 miles to where I am now. That was my intention. Well, after about a day and a few hours, I had an equipment malfunction. My TVers were not up to it. I thought they would be, but they weren't. And about a mile west of a little village, a little fishing village called Beer, B-E-E-R, one of my TVers gave up. And so I had to kind of almost limp my way that last mile to Beer, from where I took a bus back to Exeter and then a coach back to Bristol. And where I am now had been my destination, but it wasn't to be. And there you go, look at this. Wow. look at this, look at this. Okay, I'm gonna take some pictures. Yeah, this looks nice. Well, there's another of those arches, and I mean, it has to be some natural reason to explain all these arches around here. So, any of you are so inclined and know, please feel free to include links. Here's another option. You see, I wouldn't stand up and go along to the end there. I might on my hands and knees, but again, you know, if you fall, then forget it, you know. I mean, what if you nothing to hang on to? You know, you're done for. You know, all the way down to the bottom. You know, you just wouldn't stand a chance. Okay, the channel, as mentioned, when I started this Jurassic walk from the other side. The channel, well, we call it the English Channel. I don't know if that's just arrogance. In a way, it should be called the English/French Channel. The only reason I say English first is because it begins with the letter E. The French call it La Manche, the sleeve. Spanish, I think they call it Mancha, which also means sleeve. But I say it's nothing to do with Spain, although they did come along here over the Cornwall end, 1588, Spanish Armada. Anyway, between here and France, there are no international waters. Each half is waters of either the English or the French. And of course, it was all formed around about, 10,000 years ago, when there was just a valley between here and France, and along there were those, I think they've estimated 3 tsunamis that came along very quickly within 24 hours or 48 hours of each other. I don't think anyone knows exactly, but they were very quick. 3 tsunamis off the coast of what is now Norway, and they came along and basically filled up this valley with water and created this channel, the world's busiest shipping lane. And that was, I think they've estimated around about 10,000 years ago. And it's always made me think that in some respects the soil is going to be very similar between us here and the French over there, because once upon a time, like if all this water wasn't there, you could walk across. And presumably there's a similarity in soil, which is why I've often thought that in theory, certainly the southern parts of this country could do as well in wine production as just over on the French side. And I have read reports that, like, estimates in about 100 years' time, that our wine production will be similar to the French. Here we go. Wow, there's another one down there. I didn't do that standing up, actually. I had to lift my arms above my head. Anyway, alright, later. Well, back at the Swanage Museum and Heritage Centre. Finished the walk, probably about 5 miles in total. And the first 3 were easy enough because they were reasonably flat. And then the last 2, or maybe not the entire, the first 3 were okay, and then the next maybe 1.5, where you see those cliffs there, like, so I had to go up and around them, and you can see the green foliage, so that goes down, and so there were some fields to avoid, and so that bit there was mostly down, and up to that point my legs had been doing okay, but there you go. Out of interest, look out there, see 1, 2, 3 cruise ships. Apparently there's a few offset of Portsmouth as well. And those are part of the world's supply of cruise ships that are stationary right now because of all this pandemic. Not sure what cruise ships they are there. You know, Southampton is between here and where Chris lives, Portsmouth. So there may be, well, for sure, there's definitely more than 3. All lying stationary right now, waiting for things to curve up again. Anyway, so I've probably done about 2.5 miles off this Jurassic Coast walk, which I add to the 15 or whatever it was I did a few years ago, which still leaves quite a few more in the middle to do. And of course, if I were to carry on in that direction, that would also be the Southwest Coast Trail and onwards. And I suspect that one day I will do that. I will either start from here and head off that way, or come from that way and head back here. We shall see. Maybe you'll be with me. Oh, got a phone call today from Greg, one of my work colleagues. He's the Filipino fella that knows your uncle. He lives in Greenford, just next to where I do. And he was telling me that it's been raining today in London a lot. Supposed to be fun thunderstorms here, none of them happen, that's for sure. And hopefully that'll be the same tomorrow. So it looks as though the thunderstorms somehow, my presence here kind of moved them further north, and they went to London instead. Jolly good. Anyway, I'm now going to take a bus back, 2 buses back precisely, to the house. I'll have to figure out food as well. Okay. Well, another day, another bus pass. There were supposed to be thunderstorms as from 10 o'clock. Now I did check the BBC weather site at 8 o'clock. And it was predicting yellow warning thunderstorms, which means a kind of mild possibility of thunderstorms from 10 o'clock. It's now half past 11 and no sign of them, fortunately. Okay, so actually 2 bus passes today. And the second one has taken me here to this, as you can see, cove. The beach doesn't look very good, as you can see. Lots of shingles and pebbles and not very pleasant. But nevertheless, there are still people sitting on it, and as you can see, people either renting or have their own equipment. And this is, so you see the, all that stone, all that like kind of, that rock formations down there. This is a little significant actually, because, let me go along here. I'm still on the Southwest Coast Trail. I mean, no, maybe not precisely this very second in time, but let's just go along. Okay. More kids, and what is it? What is it with them screaming? Could be worse, could be pinning down with rain right now. Oh, also honey, I got some new trainers. Well, these perhaps more like hiking boots by Merrill, which are a little bit on the expensive side, but got them at half price because I guess it's a discontinued line or something. They were a little better with the heels, actually, a little stronger. So that always seemed to be something that was happening to previous pairs, that the heels were going first. Anyway, so that's that. So I just got them a couple of days ago, actually, and so far so good. That's all right, don't worry. Okay. Right. You know, one thing about a lot of these places like this is that you see there's no fences. And that's always been a bit of a debate with the National Trust and English Heritage, because the fences would kind of detract from the vistas. And you know, some of these cliffs are well, maybe all of them are crumbling over time, especially after heavy rainfall, I suppose. And like if you put a fence up here, you know, today, you know, maybe in 10 years time it would fall down. So yeah, so that's been like almost like a fundamental, actually, not to detract from the view. Although on the other hand, it can of course increase the risk. So hopefully people use common sense, but I suspect that some people don't. And every now and then somebody goes for a one-way trip. Okay, where am I? Oops, I'm stuck. Okay, I'm gonna have to pause this video because, as you can see, I actually came up here a different way. And I had to sort of go under a fence, but not this fence. So I'm gonna have to, looks like, climb over this fence. Can't be right. All right, let me figure it out, buddy. Okay, you recognize that? No, 185 million years of the Earth's history. This stone, which commemorates the inscription of the Dorset and East Devon coast on the World Heritage List of the Convention Concerning the Protection of the World Culture and Natural Heritage, was unveiled by His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales, Charlie, on the 3rd of October 2002. Okay, this is part of the Jurassic Coast, and it's, I mean, I'm not an expert on that sort of thing, but apparently there's something about it on a plaque down there, actually. There's something about, like, over millions of years, how different things have happened which have caused the way things are today. That's my non-expert way of describing it. But to people who know about that sort of thing, this is significant. And this is part of the Jurassic Coast, which the walk actually is, I read it was 95 miles, not 93. And this is part of the Southwest Coast Trail, which apparently is 650 miles from Minehead in Somerset. Actually finishes in Poole, or starts in Poole, whichever way you're going, which means that it doesn't start and finish on the Hampshire-Dorset border. And on the other side of Poole, there's no such thing as the Southeast Coast Trail, at least not yet. They're I think, trying to put something together, but of course this sort of thing takes a long time. Yeah, so Poole is one end of the 650 mile long trail, and the Jurassic Trail is 95 miles of that. This is Lulworth Cove. In fact, interestingly enough, about 4 miles down that way, there's what was a village called Tyneham, which was closed in December 1943. Everyone living there had to get out because, you know, the military were preparing for the D-Day invasion and all of that. So there's people swimming in that cove. But yeah, so all those residents had to leave, so the military moved in and, you know, did their thing. And when the war's over, the residents weren't invited back, and it's a closed village. You can go there most weekends or whenever the military aren't firing things, because it is part of a firing ground, still is, which is why during the week it's normally closed to the public. And so it's normally open on the weekends and maybe, you know, various holidays throughout the year. It's called Tyneham, Tyneham, and it's probably just a bunch of deserted buildings. So if you're into that sort of thing, it might be okay. But do check, you know, that you're going to go there at a time when it's actually open. Anyway, so Lulworth Cove, and I'm going west. Well, more arches, and I've just read an information board. By the way, the people down there, they either climbed over a fence and made their way down there, or they came in by boat. There are some paddle boats down there, one over there approaching, and I'm just coming from up there, and of course I was the wrong side of a fence, so I'm guessing that some of these fences, they're set back from the cliff edge. In that case, they were like about 5 yards from the cliff edge, so if you stay the correct side of the fence, then you're 5 yards from the cliff edge, and therefore pretty safe. I actually, when I first came upon it, I saw there was a bit of a gap, so went through that, which perhaps according to the people that put up the fences, I wasn't supposed to do, but I'm far from the only one. Anyway, and the information board was talking about how over time, what's caused those arches, and interestingly enough, they're talking about how continents collided. Now, of course, that's interesting considering the state of the physical state of the world today, and how it's divided up into continents, and there's either 4 or up to 14 of them, depending on your point of view. But that's interesting, isn't it? And then it starts going to the limestone and what heavy rains can do, and it's interesting actually. Anyway, I'm still heading west. Well, I'm not sure how well you can make out the blurs out there. Let me zoom out. Those blurs are cruise ships, and there's about 7 of them out there, and there's quite a few more actually between here and Portsmouth, and those are part of the world's cruise ships that are idle right now. And many of those ships, their home port is Southampton, which is to the east of me, which explains why so many of these vessels have not taken refuge, but have moored, are parked up. I don't know if they've anchored or not. I don't know how deep it is out there, but there's quite a few of them. I mean, you take the Cunard vessels, their home port is Southampton, even though they're part of Carnival, whose headquarters I believe is in Valencia, not too far from Los Angeles, or may be part of Los Angeles County, I'm not sure. Anyway, where are we? Well, another small arch there. There's a beach down there. Now, unlike the last beach we just saw was Lulworth Cove, which looked horrendous, this beach has also got a bit of shingle and pebbles, but there's also a mixture of sand as well. So from here I can kind of see the shingles and all of that, and can see how it's all mixed together. So maybe it's not so bad, but Lulworth Cove, it certainly didn't look that nice. But anyway, and I find it interesting how over the millions of years, the continents, the separation of the continents has created a lot of this. And interestingly enough, I did remember reading years ago when I was at the other end of the Jurassic Coast Trail, something about there are similarities between some of this Jurassic Coast and what you see in parts of California, which makes one wonder if, obviously, a long time ago, if indeed they were actually attached, or something was going on, and over almost 200 million years, then things have changed. But where am I now? Well, we see another little arch up there, and a lot of arches around, all different shapes and sizes, and I suppose that's what partly created the one that we saw in Gozo, in Malta. A month after we saw it, it collapsed, of course. Anyway, and I suppose in time these too will collapse, and maybe even this one here. How about that? But I think I sent you a picture of this. Oh no, I sent you a link, didn't I? And then you looked on Google, and I don't think you cottoned on immediately. But after a while, I think the picture that I sent you this did remind you of what we'd seen in Malta. Okay, so what is this called? This is called Dirtle Door. And this has been in the news a little bit recently because of the people that go climbing onto it. Remember, there were signs that the one in Goza saying not to climb onto it, but nevertheless people got over the fences and did anyway, and it was a month after we were there it collapsed, and I don't actually recall anyone being on it when it collapsed because I think it happened during the night or early morning or something. But of course, if one was on the top of an arch like this and it collapsed, then that would not be good news. But this has been in the news recently because I see like a fence over there, so I don't know if that's designed to keep people out, but certainly in the last few weeks people have been climbing onto it, and human nature being what it is, jumping off. And some of them have survived the fall, a few of them have broken legs and thighs and things like that, and just over about half a mile off to the left there's a car park so they can get ambulances into there. But of course, in fact I think I saw a picture of 2 helicopters had landed on this beach, and of course all the people were at this end of the beach. The helicopters were over that end, I mean not immediately next to each other, else it hit each other. So I guess rather than put these people into ambulances, that they put them into helicopters and take them off to wherever, all at taxpayers' expense, of course. People like me paying for their stupidity, because it is, it's not like, some could say that if you're overweight, maybe you don't have a choice in it because it's a medical thing. But making a decision to jump off a cliff or an arch is presumably nothing you're forced to do, but nevertheless some people do it, and there are plenty of people that say that if people then get injured, then they should have to pay for any treatment they then receive, which up to now is being borne by people like me in the form of tax. So it's annoying. Some people say that when people come up and decide to jump off an arch like this, and somehow they should have insurance, so that if something does go wrong, then the insurance company pays. So there's debates about it. Anyway, and that point over, you see the steps there, and you see the point where there's a group of people at the top of the steps. It's not really a fence, it's just like a rope. So now you see, if you look up, you can see 2 people climbing up, and I guess they've stepped over that rope, and there must be a way of going up and ultimately on top of the arch. Kind of looks fun though, doesn't it? I mean, the weather's cooled down since yesterday, which is great for me anyway. So not such a good day for people wanting to get a suntan, but it's cooler, which is great. So this is Dirtle Door, and the southwest path carries on that away. And I was gonna go about the 10 miles from here to Weymouth, but I would have and it's not like 10 miles walking on pavement, there's up and down and all this kind of thing, and so instead of say walking an average of 3 miles an hour, I might have walked 1.5 miles an hour, I don't know, and I wouldn't have got there in time for the last bus back. Could have taken the train, I suppose. But yeah, so this is it. When you walk along trails like this, you're really not sure how long it's going to take, because there's ascents, there's descents. Like when you're walking along a beach, when you're going over sand, it slows you down. But when you walk closer to the water, the sand is compacted, so it's easier to walk. Although you might get wet, your feet might get wet sometimes. So yeah, so and if I'm walking, I say it's difficult to predict, isn't it? Like it depends on the winds and There's all sorts of factors that come into it, but certainly walking 3 miles an hour is, you know, it's really not going to happen along any of these coastal trails. Could even be down to 1 mile an hour. I mean, who knows? A lot of factors go into it. Cows, of course, a bunch of cows over there in one of the fields. Anyway, oh, see those people, they've stopped at the top there, and they're one of them's waving now. Anyway, Durdle Door. Bye. Okay, there's a similar view. Get more of the beach in this way. And there's the arch. These steps go down to the arch. And of course that's an understatement. And so if one was to go, I see the fence over there, that wooden fence that people, there you go, climb over. Probably a sign there saying do not climb or something. Anyway, so as we go along, and the beaches here don't look as though they've got quite so much sand as the one we've just seen, which makes me wonder if the one we've just seen has had sand added to it. These things do happen, but maybe not, you know, maybe it's one of these things that have happened. And that signboard there goes into the I was going to say geological, is it? Talks about it though. And talks about 10,000 years ago, and that was approximately the time when the channel was created, because of those 3 tsunamis. You see, this here goes down to the beach on the left, or beaches, I should think. And personally, you know, I don't have any desire to go to the beaches. Not because of social distancing, I mean, just not my thing. There are boat trips as well. I guess they go from Poole and Weymouth. Not entirely sure. That boat there is going off to that other beach that doesn't have anyone on it. Smugglers, illegal aliens, or illegal immigrants. Anyway. Oh, I was going to tell you. Okay, when I was at Studland, I was talking about Operation Fugas when I was by that pillbox, and unknown to me, the memory, I was using the iPhone then, not the iPhone, the phone then, and the memory card filled up and video cut off, and I didn't know it. Operation Fugas was the experiments in setting the channel alight to stop the Germans, and there were various ways of doing it. That notice board that I had seen was talking about pumping crude oil into the ocean, to the channel, and setting it alight, and therefore stopping any German boats that were coming through. Because of something my father told me when I was growing up. My father at one point was used to guard some offices at the Navy base in Portsmouth, and he was telling me something about the events of the 15th and 16th of September 1940 concerning setting the waters alight. It does seem as though, you know, maybe it actually did happen for real. It's not the sort of thing that's talked about in school, not the sort of thing that's confirmed by any government, but it does seem likely that on one or both of those nights, some of the channel was set alight, and not just because of the south coast, also the bits on the eastern coast, Norfolk, Suffolk, around there. let's say, faced the Netherlands. So maybe the Germans had set out from there as well. But it does seem quite likely that parts of the water were set alight and were successful. Lots of stories about bodies turning up on the beach, burned bodies turning up on the beach. And of course there could be other reasons for that, but it was happening on the other side as well, actually. In the hospitals on the other side, like in Netherlands, Belgium, France, lots of burned soldiers arriving. So it does seem quite likely that maybe the ships, the ones that didn't sink, the German ships that didn't sink, those that were able to turn around and head back to wherever they just left, once they got there, had discharged a lot of their injured. But it does seem quite likely that something like those events did happen. But it's not the sort of thing that certainly the UK government has admitted to. And indeed, it's not, 400 years ago, I think it was Francis Drake that used fire ships, Barco de Fuego, against the Spanish Armada. And of course that wasn't with crude oil, that was, I think, with tar. But these things happen. Alrighty. Oh well. There's a vessel belonging to an organisation that I admire tremendously, the RNLI, Royal National Lifeboat Institution. Remember when we were in Poole, we had that great fish pie, and unfortunately, while I was down here, I really wanted to go to their factory where they build those things, and all that stuff. Well, the factory's probably still open, I suppose, but all the tours are cancelled, which is a shame. And we've just seen a bit of the that ferry over there. This side is Sandbanks, the other side over there is Shell Bay, and that's where I started that walk yesterday when I walked those 5 miles, whatever it is, to Swanage. And as you can see, the distance from one side to the other isn't that great. Incidentally, Sandbanks over here on the right, Harry Redknapp has a place there. He's a football manager. He's actually managed, amongst other teams, Southampton, Portsmouth and Bournemouth. And they're all of course local. They're all South Coast teams. They're all local to here. So, and I expect that's quite convenient, when he lives here. I did read yesterday that Sandbanks, of all the land value prices on the planet, on the entire planet, Sandbanks apparently is number 4 on the entire planet for land value. That's some serious stuff. Anyway, so that ferry there is coming on over. It doesn't take long. You see the chains there? You see those chains there, and that's why I'm taking this video, actually, because you can see the chains come up on the other side as well. So the chains must somehow run through either side of the boat, or the boat, run through the chains, I suppose, and the chains are resting on the seabed. I suppose they must do. To the right is the port of Poole, and every now and then there's vessels of different sizes coming out. That one over there just came out a few minutes ago. But a lot of these cruise boats, the small ones that go to Swanage or other places, they'll come out from down there as well. This is all very picturesque, isn't it? As you can see, that not blue sky right now. It's about 6:30 at night. But it is I do like this part of the country, actually, I must admit. I think it's all very pleasant. Definitely more so than where Chris lives. Anyway, so I see that bus on there. That's the number 50. That goes to Bournemouth. Bournemouth is probably about 5 miles from here, 5, 6 maybe, something like that. Poole is about 3. And the ferry, I think, it's well, for foot passengers, it's £1 westbound. I think I heard somebody say it was free eastbound. But anyway, so that's one of those. I wouldn't say tourist bus. I don't think it's all tourists that use a bus like that. I suspect. Let's go into the Bournemouth railway station, where I should be tomorrow, because it's next to the coach station in Bournemouth. Take a coach back to Heathrow, and then the 278 from there. I don't think you've been on the 278. Now, on the side of the ferry, it says "Give way to chain ferry." So I assume that has some sort of reference to, like, if that ferry is actually moving, then all other marine traffic has to give way to it, I assume. But of course these large vessels, they can't turn on a dime. So presumably there's some sort of notification system that one knows what the other one's doing and all that sort of thing. But you see the chain there, right? And the same on the other side. So I guess it doesn't really get blown off course, or the currents take or anything like that. And as you can see from the distance, it's just a short distance to the other side. Already a few cars there on the other side queuing up. And there it is, Bournemouth railway station, number 50, Purbeck Breezer. The island Shell Bay over there is on the island of Purbeck. But anyway, okay, so I'm not taking it. I'm walking up here to take a bus back to Poole, and then another one back to where I'm staying. Foot passengers and cyclists must wear face masks. Here you go. So, there we go. Wow, look at it. Runs kind of late. Apparently the weekends, when it's hot weather, places like this are an absolute madhouse. I mean, there's plenty of people in London that will come down here for a day trip, and you can imagine and you see some of these pictures of like beaches just absolutely crammed, and you think with this pandemic going on, that's not a good idea. But somebody was saying that sometimes, because photographers are using telephoto lenses or something like this, it gives the impression that people literally are right next to each other on these beaches, which actually may not be the truth. That they may be observing social distancing, but it just doesn't come out too well on on the photographs. Anyway, so, and of course the southwest coast trail, apparently one end of it is Poole. Not exactly sure where it ends precisely. Welcome to Poole, Dorset. And hopefully there'll be a bus number 60 down there waiting for me, and as soon as I get on, he'll take off. Oh, there he is. Not in service. Oh well. Okay. That's where I'm heading. Doesn't take long to get back to Poole bus station, maybe 20 minutes. And then got to wait for another bus at 5 or 6. Once I'm on that, for about 10 minutes, then another 5-minute walk back to where I'm staying. There's a Bentley there. Yeah, Sandbanks is serious money. I mean, to be honest, it's probably one of the best places in the country to live, I would think. Anyway, alright, so this particular bus may not be for me, but I'll find out. Okay. I'm trying to figure out this give way to chain ferry. Because I had read somewhere that the average depth of Poole Harbour is 9 inches, 23 centimetres. Now, I don't know if that's the harbour bit that's actually closer to the quay itself, or, I mean, surely not this far. I mean, if the average depth is 9 inches, that means that some parts are more than 9 inches and other parts are less than 9 inches. And even if that's at low tide, it doesn't seem that would work, you know. Go on, go ahead, don't worry. I mean, okay, let's assume that there's some sort of trench that's dug in the middle, you know, to let out the large vessels, or vessels with larger drafts anyway. And so, you know, the channel where they go in and out is obviously more than 9 inches, which would mean that bits closer to the quay would be less than 9 inches. But when I look now, that doesn't look less than 9 inches down there. Now, I understand that boats, you know, if a boat is, you know, like a catamaran or trimaran, something like that ferry, because it's wider, then the weight is distributed differently, and so the boat doesn't take so much space and draft in the water.
Do not say what I know you're gonna say. Dad, kill the fish!
Okay, too many people here. Anyway, so I can't figure out how the average can be 9 inches. I mean, certainly not here anyway. Now, there are strong currents here. Great. There are strong currents, which is why they use the chain ferry actually, because if they didn't, then the boat would be more liable to go in whichever way the currents are taking it. So I can understand why they're using, you know, the chain system. But I can't see this 9 inches unless it's just a bit of the harbour that's closer to, say, to the actual quays themselves and not this far out. I mean, it can't be 9 inches. And then you've got the chain itself. I mean, there's a trench dug out in the middle. So the train, Lord above, the chain must sort of somehow kind of sit down inside the trench. Otherwise, if the chain was horizontal, then any large boats going through the canal would either get stuck on the chain, or they'd actually, you know, cut the chain, which I think's happened once or twice over the decades. So if there's a trench there, so the chain is not horizontal the entire way, it must fit down into the trench when the chain is not taut. Or something like that. I mean, whatever system they use, you know, I mean, I guess it works. Well, it's the following day, and it's probably the last video, certainly from this trip, as I stand here. Incidentally, just up there, I'm on the high street in Poole right now. Just up there, there's a Taco Bell of all places. But this, I suspect, means more to you than Taco Bell. This is 29.5, and next to it is 29. This is the first ever Lush. And I was just talking to a girl there, and she was telling me a little bit about it, and how people from all over the world come to visit it, and why the spa here is better than the spa on Oxford Street, because when you leave this one here, go down there, and the quay is just down there, you know, rather than, you know, walking out into busy Oxford Street. Apparently it's a lot less stressful here, which makes some sense. Anyway, so that's the first ever Lush. And then she was going on about some stuff that they have there and not in any of the other Lushes, but I don't know. Anyway, so that's Lush. Just up there, a quarter mile, is There's a Taco Bell. And yeah, this is, as I stand here now, I suspect this is going to be the last video from Poole. When I get back tomorrow, I'll splice them all together. So, don't know, might be an hour's worth of video there to watch, I'm not sure. Anyway, I'll let you know once I've done all that. So yeah, this is, we didn't actually get to this part of Poole last time. And we're coming down to the high street. The numbers descend. So as we just saw at Lush, it was 29 and 29 and a half. And the museum down there, that's where the visitor centre is, and I think that's number 4. I must admit, I do get good vibes from here, certainly compared to Portsmouth and Southampton. So it's really nice around here, actually. But anyway, it's a bit cooler today. What's this here? From this hotel in 1865 until the lifeboat station. Okay, it's taking my home strength on this. How about that? I really respect the RNLI, I must admit. Anyway, so here we go. I'm actually on my way to a fishmonger's now for lunch. Apparently, there's lots of fish and chip shops, but apparently it's all much fresher. I mean, the channel's right there. I don't know how many fishing boats come into here, mine. Anyway, so this is the harbour, just the other side of that road. And let's just go for a wander across to it. So the temperatures, Fahrenheit, I think it's gone down. I arrived 3 days ago. I think it's about 20 degrees cooler. I'm still wearing t-shirt and shorts. I mean, I didn't bring any jeans or trousers with me anyway. And you know, it's bearable for sure. Okay, where are we? You know, all these harbour fronts along the south coast, they're all going to have, you know, like we saw in Hastings and Eastbourne, they're fish and chip places. Normally, of course, they're all, you know, busy all summer long, but things are a bit messed up this year. Anyway, so cruises, you know, cruises that go to Swanage and Weymouth. There you go. The RNLI building that we were at, I think that's off to the right somewhere. So this would be a different sort of view than we had when we were in Poole. And of course, you know, that was what, January? So now, of course, the weather's a little different. Anyway, so yeah, so what's that? Border Force. Okay. As you may have seen in the news, this country's having a few problems right now with people on dinghies making their way from France. Normally they didn't come this far though, because from here to France it's, I don't know, 50 miles, 40 miles, I don't know, whereas from Calais to Dover it's about 21, so I don't really think they have too much of a problem here with these boat people. So it makes me think, like, what's that Border Force boat doing there? Why isn't it down at Dover and Calais, like, doing its thing there instead of moored here? Anyway, so okay, so normal sort of harbour front of a seaside town, and I'm off to find the fishmongers. A lot of boats built here and yachts and, you know, all that kind of marine activity. So that's it. As far as I know, this is the last video this time around anyway. So once you do get to, if you are listening to this and watching this, presumably you've listened and watched, you know, to the whole video, whether that be an hour or an hour and a quarter or whatever it is. And if you've actually survived and suffered through that, then I thank you very much. Another cruise boat returning. Okay. Till next time, Gator. Bye. One final video, it looks like. On the left-hand side there, you can see the RNLI pool station. And as I was walking across the bridge, I saw the, I think it was red lights, 2 red lights or yellow lights flashing outside it, which made me think. And then I saw a couple of people running, and they're running to that dinghy that they're now into, and because these boats are very, you know, they'll have whatever boat is appropriate for the, you know, where they are. Like, you know, on the Thames, right by Waterloo Bridge, they have an RNLI station. But obviously they don't need the ocean-going boats there, and they just have some dinghies, as they do here. Well, they must have some bigger vessels somewhere. But that's where, in there, where they keep their vessels here. And there's other stations around here, it's just not this one. And there must be a station around here somewhere where they keep the bigger boats in case they need to go out into the channel or something. But yes, RNLI, and as you know, I do, and if I was in a position, I'd love to give them millions of pounds. But anyway, okay, still waiting for that lorry, eh? Okay, I just went over to a fishmonger's there, which unfortunately was not a chippy, so there we go. So yeah, that's it. I'm heading back to Bournemouth now, and the coach later goes back to Heathrow, and